Good morning. I think so. No, it's probably afternoon. This is probably Friday of next week. Last class of week number 2. Continuing on, we're in motivational theory land, and we've been going slowly or quickly from Taylor to Maslow to Hertzberg. So I'll make one more comparison between Hertzberg and Maslow, and then we'll move on. The similarity of both Maslow and Hertzberg is that they both don't believe that money is the main motivator of people. That's what that's the development or the evolution past Taylor. So money may not, it could be a motivator. Of course, there's certain levels of money that people will just do, work for, and they don't like what they do, but they take the money. Criticisms of Maslow. Is there really 5 needs? Is it really broken into this progress levels of steps? A lot of people are not sure if that's true. Workers don't really get to know the needs that they have themselves, so it's possible that they really don't know which level they're on, and they can't respond to the kind of motivational strategies that the company has. And Hertzberg's main criticism is that they're not really all related. There's really just positive and negative motivators. And that's basically what Hertzberg tries to put across. Now, there's some, it's not, the hygiene factors are not all extrinsic. There's some things about belonging in there as well. And the motivators are not all intrinsic. A title that someone has as a manager or director can be an excellent motivator. So I think it's a little bit reductive of this slide to say that they're just extrinsic and intrinsic. Let's step to here. Again, just to review what hygiene factors versus motivators are. Hygiene factors are air conditioning, comfortable chairs, right? We try to make these things work, so you feel comfortable in school. People probably never even think about the chairs in this school. We have good chairs, and that's why it's pretty comfortable for you to chill out all day for an hour and a half in a class. Whereas those old chairs, you probably would just be like, I don't really feel good if I'm doing this all day. Or I can't imagine sitting in this uncomfortable chair all day. Good company policies, consistent, fair, everybody understands, the work conditions are good, the salary is fair, the supervision is also, clear with their expectation clarity, very important. And in terms of the motivators are the recognition, the feeling of the work, the advancement that you have in the company, and these are actually things that you're trying to get to, you're trying to reach in your goals for your work in the company. What are all these people doing? Sorry, I have some email that just is. Okay, next. I'm done with that now. So, comparison of Maslow and Hertzberg would have the basic needs that Maslow considers: physiological and safety, be under good working conditions and job security. Belonging is kind of both. Belonging is a basic need and also a motivator. And then the esteem needs would be the ones that would be above that. Which leads me to this thing. This thing is called the, it's another weird, I almost don't want to call it a theory because it's so basic that it's more like a plug-in for some kind of app than it is something that you would want to say somebody put time into making a theory of that. So, but the purpose of McGregor is to just put you as a manager into a position of how you're gonna reward people or what kind of punishments or rewards make sense. Now, probably this could vary from job to job and from person to person, but it's about your preconceived idea of human nature or the nature of the worker and their psychology. So, to put it this way, if your idea about people is that they are lazy, they try to avoid responsibility and work, they don't, you have to watch them all the time, you can never trust them to just do the job. That means your management style is going to have to be more authoritarian, and your reward and punishment style has to be more behaviorist. That you have to like carrot, stick. So that just gives you a basic idea. So if you said, okay, look at these lazy workers, they just don't want to do it. So I've got to be a little bit harder on them. I've got to use a more behavioristic approach. I cannot appeal to them in a way that is, they just don't want to work. Whatever I do to try to convince them, they're going to figure out a way to be lazy. So if that's your idea about human nature, then that's your idea about management. The other side of it is theory Y, or consideration about psychology Y, is that people actually do enjoy their work. Like they get something out of it. They get pride from it. They want to do a good job. They want to get more responsibility. They enjoy to work together, with other people, and that they're not trying to avoid work. If you understand your staff like that, then you have a whole other kind of management idea. You can work from the participation level. You can expect participation. A more democratic leadership style would be appropriate for that kind of group. So that just gives you kind of an idea before you start to consider the kinds of reward systems that you might have. Because the next group of theories about motivation were really about how does the worker really perceive the kinds of things that you're being offered? For example, if you were to offer me something I don't want, if I know that my bonus is not gonna be enough to take a trip to Nha Trang, maybe even you know, tickets to a K-pop concert. I don't have any need for them. If I was gonna be in some kind of a competitive situation to try to win that kind of thing, I would say, no, K-pop tickets don't matter to me. This reward is not interesting, so it doesn't motivate me as much. So theory X and theory Y are kind of the basis for attempting to understand what kind of reward systems would be appropriate. And what kind of manager you need to be. So Taylor would obviously be theory X. Pessimistic about workers. Workers are irresponsible. They don't want to change. They hate to work. They would rather not have responsibility. Maslow and maybe Hertzberg would suggest that workers are very much capable of responsibility and that they would like to have more decision making and about their work, that they're able to work themselves without anybody guiding them. Now, as a teacher, you could ask me that question about students, and I would say that I guess that there's both. There are people who, you know, they don't actually do, like if I tell them to work on a question and then I go out of the room for 5 minutes, I come back in, and there's no words at all on the paper. None at all. Or they pretend to be reading the book and looking very serious. Spend more time acting than actually studying. And then there's some people who work, you know, they take the marketing plan seriously and they become interested in this idea and they think of it as, oh, this is my own business. I want to do research like I would do research for my own business. And they get really into it and they get a lot out of it because they get really into it. So I think there's both, really. What is theory Z? It's a new theory. Let's see. What's theory Z? Theory Z, they're saying, is a mix. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think we all kind of fit in the middle. Some features of theory Z are the importance of interpersonal skills and emphasis on democratic relationships, group decision making for managers and supervisors, trust. I don't believe in this theory Z. It doesn't help us. Somebody just, you know, they're like, wait, you stopped at Y. There's one more letter. I'm going to make a thing. Okay, so that's the general motivations of Hertzberg there. And I don't think we finished this. Did we finish this one?
What they meant by this was that these are factors which, if they are not present, they will demotivate employees. However, simply significantly more responsibility at work in their job.
Oh, we did this.
Should need to do.
All right. So before we go into rewards,
Writing's not.
let's consider, you know, some of the things that can be offered to staff in terms of, you know, not just money. So we get to this this person called Vroom, Victor Vroom. He's weird theorists that sit there and try to think about, well, why does something work or why does it not work? Our book has Victor Vroom on page 190. And Vroom suggests that, similar to my previous example about K-pop, Kim Jong-un hates K-pop. Did you know that? He called it a cancer on the world. So it's not just me. So Vroom says there's gotta be 3 things involved if you're going to use a reward as motivation. Going back to why and linking this, there's been studies where they give children some paper and pens and tell them to draw a house or something, and you see all the kids are totally into it, and they draw up a storm and they spend lots of focused time working on their pictures and art. And then the second study, they offer rewards. They say, okay, whoever does the best picture is going to get some prize or something. And then half of the people become demotivated. Half of the children don't really have as much fun drawing the pictures as they did before. They're not as interested. They seem almost stressed about the situation because now you've got a competition involved. People have different feelings about that competition, right? Sometimes you feel like you're well, I know that Jenny is a better artist than I am. I'm never going to beat her, so I cannot win the prize. So I'm already out of the situation. I'm out of the competition. So that's kind of what Vroom is getting at there. He's saying well, there are all these it's coming from why, that there are mostly self-motivated people there, and if you don't give them or offer them some kind of reward that makes sense for them, that is something they feel is possible, right? I don't play the lottery. I never buy lottery tickets because I don't think that I can win. I don't see any hope in that. It's not a fun game because there's really nothing realistic. I would rather just give somebody who's poor money than buy a peso, because I don't have any dream of winning those prizes. I'm not even sure that it's a real competition. So that's what Vroom says. So let's try to understand his 3 elements that are going to determine if a reward that the company is going to offer is going to be motivating or not. Maybe it's demotivating for some staff. So what needs to be true? Victor Vroom found that employees will want to maximize their happiness at work and minimize their pain. So they like to work, but they just want to work where it's happiness, where they have good times, kind of like children. His theory explains how people make decisions regarding various alternatives and the relationship between people's behavior in the workplace and also the goals that they can achieve or how they achieve their goals. He explains that an employee's performance at work is reflective of personal factors such as the needs that, so there's a little bit of Maslow in there, things that people need, their personality, skills, confidence, knowledge, and experience. And he says that the expectancy theory is that employees will be motivated if you take those factors and you understand that there are 3 steps to successfully motivating staff with rewards. First one is, so here's my KPI, and if I reach my KPI, I will get my reward. The first one is like any goal, SMART, SMART goals, specific, measurable, T, time-based, A, action-based. You can see a route to your goal, and R, that's the one that Vroom is interested in, which is realistic. Can I reach that target? Is it too high? Is it unreasonable? Is there not much chance I can make it? If I can't make the goal or the KPI, then my motivation to reach it and to get the reward is not high. I lose motivation. I don't gain it. There's no way I'm gonna reach that goal. So that's the first thing. The first thing is whether or not we feel that is confident to reach that goal, right? I think they're putting that under expectancy. Confidence of the employee about their ability to do the work. If they work harder, will more be achieved? If they put in more effort, will the results be magnified? Those are the questions. And that also has to do with the efficiency of the organization. If, for example, the organization has lots of inefficiencies and places where there's a lot of failed transactions or inability to complete promises for customers that you make, then it's out of your hands whether or not you can reach your goal. You know, you can be sabotaged by other factors that are outside of your control. So control is a little bit about that too. How much do you feel like you have the ability to do the work, and how much control over the outcome do you have? Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is you have to believe that you're actually gonna receive the reward. When you think about some basic things like those competitions that have them on the Milo, and they say one person is gonna win a car or a van, and then they're gonna offer 3 motorbikes and then 8 MacBooks. Those are the rewards. You play this contest and you win. One person gets a car, 3 people get motorbikes, and 8 people get laptops. Okay, that's great, but do you think they actually give those prizes away? Those competitions, to me, I'm never trusting that there's anyone who actually wins the prize. I knew one guy who worked for an ad agency. He ended up with one of the 8 MacBooks. Maybe they just go to like staff, and then the staff pretends that they were in the competition. So if you don't really believe that that's going to come through, and that's a real general level for, you know, consumers, but in terms of working, maybe in the past you were promised that you would reach a promotion, you know, that you were ready, that it was time, and you would get this promotion, and then 1 more year. Just wait your turn, 1 more year, and you'll get that promotion. And then it didn't happen again. So if you don't trust the people who are actually delivering the reward, if they failed you in the past, or they failed the employee in the past, the employee won't trust. So why should I try harder? How can that motivate me if last time I reached my KPI for the year and I reached my targeted sales, but then I still didn't get the promotion? So this year it's going to be different. Really? Maybe. Maybe not. So, the second thing is to expect that the actual reward is going to be something that actually happens. That's called instrumentality on page 190. Finally, the reward, after all that, I have to believe, okay, this is a realistic KPI. 1. 2, if I reach it, I'm gonna get the prize. And then 3, I have to want the prize. It has to be something that I really want. If it's, you know, if I already feel like, all right, I make enough money, or I have enough responsibility, and if I get this promotion, they're just going to give me more responsibility. Yeesh. That might not be what I really want, right? It might be a free trip to go somewhere, but it might not be somewhere I want to go. So the prize, or whatever the reward is, should reflect the interest of the person who is trying to get the reward. When you apply this, you can imagine it in terms of using kind of a black hat approach and saying, like, okay, you turning it into questions. So, is it realistic that the workers will reach this target? Are the prizes actually there, and is the company willing to distribute them? And is the reward something that people, workers, employees actually want? So those are the questions. So whenever you talk about the quality and the possibility of achieving, I'll ask you about Victor Vroom. That last one about, do they really want the reward, or is the reward something desirable? That's called valence. But you don't need to memorize those words: expectancy, instrumentality, and valence. It's better just to know the 3 criteria for a successful reward. Okay, that's Victor Vroom. The effect of this theory is that a human resource manager or owner or manager needs to ensure that their rewards and incentives are closely linked to the desired performance from employee. So I'm gonna run through a little video here of non-financial methods of motivation.
Financial methods of motivation. So it's an interesting question, isn't it? How do you motivate people at work? As we know, business theory suggests 2 main approaches: financial and non-financial. And the main non-financial methods focus on the way that work is organised for employees, and also how they are treated by employers. Now we're going to take a quick look at 8 methods, non-financial methods. Don't forget, your exam board may specify the particular non-financial methods they want you to have an awareness of. Don't forget, also pause the video as we go through. You may want to add notes on each of these to your files. Let's start with the one on the left hand side there, delegation. Now delegation is, this happens when you give responsibility for carrying out a task or responsibility for a role, you pass it on to somebody else in the business. And typically you pass it on to a subordinate, somebody who works for you. So delegation, giving responsibility for something to somebody else. And of course, if you do that effectively, that can have a number of benefits, not the least. It can reduce management stress and workload. But the motivating aspect of this is that it helps empower and motivate employees to whom the responsibility is delegated, provided that they have the time and the resources and the skills to take on the responsibility. So you can see how delegation, when done properly, can lead to much better, and effective decision making, use of resources, but also it's very motivating. And delegation is also a very effective way of providing on-the-job training to subordinates. The middle one there, empowerment. Have you heard of empowerment? This involves basically giving employees more control over their working lives. So, for example, organising employees into an empowered team with quite a high degree of autonomy, decision-making power, can help deliver empowerment and giving employees the opportunities to, for example, plan their own work, decide where they work, giving them responsibility to take their own decisions, to empower them to take decisions and to solve business issues and problems as they come across them. You can see how that is a very effective way of making working life more motivating. One on the right hand side there, that's one on this slide, consultation. Consultation is it's a process. It's a process of formally consulting with people or discussing an issue. And typically this takes place in a business context between management and employees, either as individuals or, as we see on the screen there, more commonly between management and groups of employees. And you can imagine that if you're working in a business that regularly and effectively consults employees on key business issues, whether they're good or bad, that can be a very effective way of improving workplace culture and making it a better place to work, a more enjoyable place to work, thereby helping motivate employees. Okay, those are the first three. Let's move on to the next three, all starting with the word job, starting with job rotation there on the left-hand side. Job rotation, as the term suggests, involves moving or rotating employees through a series of different jobs. And the key aim there is to increase interest or reduce boredom and therefore increase motivation. And a key benefit of job rotation, again if it's done effectively, is that it encourages multi-skilling. Now of course an obvious requirement of job rotation therefore is making sure that you've got the training right. There's no point job rotating if you don't have the skills and the abilities to do the job.
What do they mean by job rotating? They mean like, I think that happens at SIC actually, and they use that in a lot of government organizations here, where they take each employee and have them do one or two jobs, or one job for 2 years, and then they move to another job for 2 years. I think it's pretty good. It has a couple benefits. One benefit, of course, is that it eliminates some corruption. If one person sits at one desk for too long, they pretty much learn how to manipulate as a gatekeeper, they're able to manipulate that position to maintain power over, take bribes and do all that. But also, it allows people to develop their skills. If you know that there's another job that you might apply for in the company or the school every 2 years, you'll look around and you'll think, okay, maybe this skill is something I need to learn next. And then hopefully that'll make you more eligible for even management roles in the future, because you'll understand everybody else's job already. So that's a benefit, definitely. Job rotation, changing jobs sometimes.
It's the different change, the range of jobs that you're asked to do. Now in a sense, job rotation is quite similar to job enlargement on the right hand side. We'll come back to that. But basically job rotation and enlargement, they both widen the activities that a worker or an employee is asked to do. The one in the middle there, job enrichment, this is really about giving employees greater responsibility by increasing the range and the complexity of what they're asked to do, and also giving them the necessary authority to do it. So if you like, job enrichment motivates employees by giving them more opportunity.
What happened? This is bad luck. Something fell on the keyboard.
Balance working life with home life. How empowerment with team working, that's a very effective way of motivating employees in their day-to-day. This is about organising employees into teams, a bit of a clue in the title. But the key to making team working work effectively is to give those teams autonomy, responsibility for decision making. Allow the team to plan their work, to take decisions, to solve problems, to identify the resources they need, and to organise and facilitate things. And for sure, set those teams targets and perhaps give them financial rewards for achieving those targets as well. But basically, if you can combine empowerment with team working, that's a very effective way of motivating employees in their day-to-day work. And lastly, the one on the right there, flexible working, which is the subject of a separate video, an increasingly important aspect of work. Flexible working is quite a broad term, which describes quite a number of different employment options that essentially help employees balance working life with home life. Flexible in the sense that the working arrangements have a number of options that give employees some choice over, for example, things like when they work, where they work, the pattern of working and so forth. And clearly, a business that has attractive and sensible, flexible working options is likely to help employees, help motivate their employees, because clearly it's a big part of making work more effective and hopefully enjoyable. There we go. Well, we've taken a few minutes there, but we've had a bit of an overview there of the main non-financial methods of motivation.
And of course, linking the idea that motivation is part of keeping maintenance of employees, and maintenance is part of keeping staff so you don't have high staff turnover. That's the goal. That is the goal. All right, I'm gonna just add Adam's theory in here. I have about 10 minutes, maybe 7 to 10 minutes to go. The next lessons after this are gonna be about rewards, all the different kinds of rewards in detail, and a little bit about the relationship between staff and supervisors. Adam's equity theory. So today we have 3 theories. We have McGregor, the XY, which is not, it's a theory of personality, but it's not really a management theory. It just gives some guidance about what style of management might be successful depending on your beliefs about employees. The second one was Vroom. That's really focused on whether or not rewards will be a successful motivator or not. And the third one is on page 191 in our book, and it concerns a guy named Adams, John Adams. And it says that John Adams built on Maslow's and Hertzberg's theories to consider the influence of comparisons with other employees' situations on the individual employee's motivation. So, how does this, I practice classroom management, right? All teachers, we have to use classroom management. We do planning, organizing, there's some leadership and motivating, and also your grades, controlling. So all of the elements of management are in classroom management. So I think you can really say POLC is part of, you can use that anytime you see management. So when we talk about how to motivate students, I think it would be very obvious if teachers had favorite students, right? Some students would become demotivated because they would feel like, well, I'm never gonna be, teacher's not gonna recognize me like they recognize that person, so they will maybe feel demotivated. if they think that they're not one of the favorites of the teacher. So it's important for us as teachers to really be fair and to understand, to give everyone an equal chance. That helps us to motivate you. That's probably the most important thing that can motivate you, is to believe that you're treated fairly in the classroom. So, there are some situations where you can, I'm sure, like even, parents actually even choose favorites. It's very detrimental. It's very detrimental. There's been a couple times in my 15 years of teaching where I heard a student say that they thought, "Oh, isn't that your favorite student?" And I was like, really? I don't really feel like I have a favorite student. But there could be perceptions there, right? So I've had one of those situations was when I had a student who was, I'm not saying there's any favorites, but sometimes when the class is moving slowly, there are some people who will answer questions consistently, incorrectly or correctly, but they're there and they maintain a kind of flow in the classroom. And you need flow to make a classroom work. That's why these classes don't have any flow. So I will choose students to pick up the rhythm sometimes when I know that they will instantly go for it and try to answer. So that can kind of make it seem like there might be a favorite. But another reason why that might be, you can take it for what it is. I don't really have a theory on this, except to say that some people who normally would be alpha dogs, the ones who would speak the most, the ones who would ask the most questions, they don't, because other people are doing it. So if you know that as a manager, that there are other people who could assume leadership positions, then you will treat people more fairly because you understand that there's social things that are making some people answer. It's not that people cannot answer. So I had in one class what I perceived to be the 3 students who were the most active all leave the class. And most of the rest of the students were very quiet through most of the year. And these 3 students, they went overseas and they were gone. And all of a sudden I had this class of people who didn't really talk very much, pretty quiet. But then after another 2 weeks, 3 more emerged as like leaders and questioners and talkers. It's like, wait, they were just waiting in the background all this time. They had a lot of questions, they had a lot of energy, but for some reason they didn't come to the front. So this is, could be part of Adams, could be part of this idea that you need to be treated equally in order to participate freely. So that's what Adams is kind of getting at, is that you need to not play favorites in your organization. You need to give everybody a chance to speak and to have a reward. So he says, John Adams, that employees compare their inputs. Inputs means what they do. Questions, effort, work, energy, ideas, their commitment, the amount of time, years they put into the company. They compare that with other employees, and they can become extremely resentful. So if, for example, they feel like someone got a promotion before they did, that is super demotivating. It's not just one person got the promotion and the other one didn't. The other one feels like, wow, I got passed over. I was supposed to get that promotion. That was mine. So, so the outcomes, whether it's promotions, financial rewards, praise even, just have like a new staff and say, and the boss says, if your brother or sister, and they say, oh, why can't you be like your brother or sister? You know how that feels, right? You know how you would be like, Really? You're gonna compare us like that? Yeah, so any comparison made between staff is also gonna be very, very difficult for staff to overcome. So Adams is very sensitive to this, and he says that any reward system that you make has to take into account very carefully how much, understand your employees and how much they put into the company, and whoever gets the reward, and kind of have a sense of what's fair. So you have to kind of, and I see this a lot. I see a lot of companies that really don't, the perception of the staff member about how much work and effort they put in compared to what the company understands about the differences between how hard people work can be very wide. A lot of people in the management of the company, they don't really pay attention. They're more interested in protecting their own job rather than the jobs of their staff. So Adams is, the human resource management department is affected by this theory, in that the business owner or manager should ensure that employee inputs are fairly rewarded by equitable outcomes for all the workplace. Again, it's gonna take some kind of analysis or understanding of your staff members and their commitment, and to get it right in order to give rewards. So that's the theory of Adams. It's very basic. It's about fairness, and compares what people put into what they get out of the system, and that you should understand that inside your system. That's it for today. I gotta run. It's the end of the week again. Have a beautiful weekend. Bye-bye.